Hi, I'm Lynn Cornell, and welcome back to Journey Through the Bible, a closer look at John chapter 1. I want to do just a kind of a brief review at where we are. This is part 3, by the way. Now, verses 1 through 5, of course, John reveals and tells us about the Word, who the Word is. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And verse 2, he was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing that was created that had been created. Life was in him, and that life was the light of men. That light shined in the darkness, yet the darkness did not overcome it. Now, kind of important to what John is saying. When we come to verse 6, he says that there was a man named John. So I asked the question, why did he bring up John? Why is he bringing that up? Well, because in this verse 18, verses 1 through 18, remember the prologue. It's really a revelation of the plan and purpose of God. And that's important. The reason why he's bringing this up is because the ministry of John the Baptist would be a part of the plan of God, and letting us know that it was always the plan of God to reveal the Messiah, to give testimony to the Messiah. And so that's why he says that John was sent to give testimony to the light, and then so that all might believe. So the preaching of the gospel of grace, the preaching of faith in grace, salvation by faith alone, grace alone, has always been God's purpose. Always been there. Always. And this is what these verses are revealing to us. Now, verse 10 says, he was in the world, and the world was created through him, yet the world did not recognize him. Now, John's message is universal. It's to the world, and it's to all people of all ages, all times, all culture. Now, we know this because the emphasis of using this word, world, he uses it some 78 times, depending on the translation, some 78 times in this letter. Now, there are three ways, or you can say 3 definitions to this word, world. John uses it in 3 ways. One is the cosmos, meaning the ordered universe. Okay, so the universe as the expansion of the universe, and the galaxies in the universe, and the solar systems, the planets, the orbits around the planets. For example, our Milky Way galaxy, which is among the billions of galaxies that are orbiting around in the universe. And by the way, order is a vital part of understanding the way that John is using the term world here. Ordered universe. Then the second way, or definition of how John uses this term world, is the religious systems, or the financial systems, the political systems, the systems of the world. You could say the ordered systems of the world. And that's going to be very, very important throughout not only this gospel again, but throughout the New Testament. When we come later in chapter 12, and Jesus is going to say the ruler of this world is cast out. He's referring to Satan being cast out, but he's referring to the ordered systems, which includes the religious system. And that's probably going to be the hardest for us to understand, that probably most of even Christianity is a part of that world systems. Yes, so religious systems, even though they claim to worship God and follow God, they're following religion. They're following the precepts and teachings of men. Okay, so So that's a part of that in terms of the world. And then, of course, the third way in which world is used is the collective people of the world. The collective people of the world. So repeatedly over, and we're going to see that just in the next verse, when in John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he is referring not to the cosmos, the universe. He's not referring to the religious systems. He's referring to the people of the world. So the world will hate you. I come to save the world. Again, he's referring to the collective people. And just one note, because there's some doctrines out there and some apologetics, meaning defense, art of debate, okay, that try to, in order to enhance or support their doctrine, they'll say that that this term world means the elect, and there is no scripture that they can show. There is nowhere where in the Bible where world is used to refer to God's people. In other words, the world, and as John is using it, especially the New Testament is using it, always refer to the hostile, sinful world in which Jesus is going to die for. And that the people of God are going to be brought out of the world. We're going to be saved out of the world, and then thus commanded no longer to love the world, love the things in the world. Okay? So when it says right here, he was in the world, and the world was created through him, yet the world did not recognize him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. Now, his own people refers to the Jewish people. Jesus was from Jewish descent, from the line of Abraham. This is extremely important. All the genealogies that you read, and we're going to see in the other gospel, there are two genealogies listed in the New Testament. One genealogy traces Jesus back to Abraham. Luke's genealogy traces Jesus back through David, through Abraham, then to Adam. Actually, Seth, then Adam, because that's an important righteous kind of genealogy, the line. And but his own people, the Jewish people, didn't receive him. And so in verse 10, notice he said that the world did not recognize him, meaning if you was living in the time of Jesus, you would have saw a man. Interesting, you would have saw a man, okay? But they didn't recognize him as God. In other words, there were no halos around him, right? Sometimes as you see in the picture. There was no, as you sometimes see in the movies, the kind of gothic, the kind of music that kind of, when Jesus comes and you see this movie, one time of that, they just saw a man. Now they didn't recognize him then as, they did not recognize him as the creator of the universe. And then the Jews, interesting enough, did not receive him. The world did not recognize him. The Jews did not receive him. Verse 12, but to all who did receive him, he gave them the right to be children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. So now we see this again. Remember, this revelation from the foundation of the world, that this relationship with God would be not one based upon commandments, not one based upon works and deeds, but one based upon being born of God. And we'll get into that later down to the book. And so when he says that who were born not of the will of, not of blood, family ties for sure, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. In other words, not because of human endeavor. See, not because of human endeavor, but of God. The will of God. Meaning it was God's will from the foundation of the world that man would have this kind of relationship with him. And we'll see later on, there's a scripture in Galatians, the book of Galatians, that tells us the purpose of the law. that it was added because of transgressions. Now, verse 14, the Word became flesh and took up residency among us. We observed His glory, the glory as of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. And this is pivotal verse. Notice we already know who the Word is, right? And remember, we go back. In the beginning was the Word. That Word existed outside of time and space, the material universe. That Word was the beginning. All things emanated from Him, the beginning. He was with God. He was God. They existed outside of the known universe. They were the creators of it. And now this Word comes into this material universe. The Word became flesh and took up residency among us. So Jesus became flesh. He became, and this is very important because He is 100% God and 100% man. He was fully human in every sense of the way of the word. In every sense, He was human. He had a respiratory system, a digestive system, a circulatory system, nerves, muscles. When I was a little boy, and every Christmas, my mother would buy me G.I. Joe dolls, and I played with G.I. Joe dolls. And if you take off the clothes, you would see the form of a man with no anatomy. In other words, I say that because Jesus wasn't just human-like. Jesus was fully human. So He had an anatomy. He had a functioning anatomy. So if you're a male, you know what that means. Jesus could have been sexually active. There was no difference. He was a man in every sense of the word. He just chose not to act on his impulses. He used the bathroom 1 and 2. He did do that. Okay? So He was human in every sense of the word. And when you saw then Jesus, you saw a man. But notice what He says. We observed His glory, the glory of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So now here's something again that is very important. This is what God intended for us to see, right? Going back to the Word, then the revelation of the Word. Remember, the Word captures a thought, a concept, an expression. He is the radiance of He is the exact image of God. And this is what God wanted us to see. Not only was He the Son of God, but the Son of God full of grace and truth. And that sentence is extremely important for us to understand. In other words, notice He said, when we observed Him, that means we fixed our gaze on Him. It wasn't a quick glance. But what you saw, when you fixed your gaze, then this is the intended revelation. This is the intended view, picture, image that you should see. That not only was He the Son of God, and we see that through works, through the miracles, the signs and wonders, but that also should conclude full of grace and truth. And again, we're going to explain this term, grace and truth. But it's equally important that you understand that revelation, not only the Son of God, but the Son of God full of grace and truth. And I can go on with many, many, many explanations. I'm thinking about a lot of stuff that I see even on YouTube now. And a lot of people see Jesus as the black man, Jesus as the white man, Jesus as a conservative, Jesus as a non-conservative, Jesus as whatever. And all of that is the wrong interpretation. It is the wrong view. It is the wrong conclusion. Because what you should be seeing if you observe Him, if you fix your gaze on Him, is that not only is the Son of God, but the Son of God full of grace and truth. Okay, we'll pick this up, next time in part 4. So I'll see you in the next video.